Welcome back to Are You a Fan, where we explore individual characters from your favorite sci-fi, action, and fantasy genres. A big thank you to MoonBound Productions for supporting today's episode. If you would like to express your support, please like and share the show. Here's your hosts, d-rael and Joker.
Hi folks, welcome to Are You a Fan by MoonBound Productions. If you like the episode, give us a like, follow, and you know what? Maybe share with a friend. So Joker, got a question for you this week, and for the audience.
Yes.
If you could pick one ninjutsu from the Naruto verse, what would it be?
Seeing as it's really the only one I remember at this point, because I haven't watched the show since you had to wait a week for each episode. I'd go with the clone one.
Back in the dark days.
Yeah, which aren't even that dark anymore now that all the streaming services are doing the same thing.
It betrayed us. So, Shadow Clone?
Yeah, because that's really the only one I remember at this point.
Honestly, there's a lot of badass ninjutsus that I would pick from. Because honestly, the Sharingan, or Shurigan? The Eye Jutsu is pretty badass, but honestly, though, I think I would go with Shadow Clone because it adds something that's pretty cool in the universe.
Okay.
Whatever your Shadow Clone learns, when they disappear, that knowledge gets immediately transferred to you.
I'd get so smart so fast.
Yeah,
I'd learn so many new things.
Exactly. That's honestly why in the Naruto verse they're excellent for spying, because you can send it in there, have it prick itself, it disappears, bam, you have that knowledge.
And to think I was going to use it for other really stupid means. I can actually use it for something useful.
You were going to use it to make you food, weren't you?
I mean, that, or to mess with friends, or go to work for me.
Team multiplayer.
Oh, God, yes. You'd play a whole team by yourself.
Dude. Okay, so that brings us into this week's character, folks. Jiraiya, also known as the Toad Sage, also known in some circles or by the main character as the Pervy Sage. And we will get into why that is at some point.
At least briefly.
Okay, so let's get into it. Let's go real world first. So, also, as we've done in the past, disclaimer for an apology that we are going to butcher some names.
Especially since this is not our language.
Yes.
Whatsoever.
So, Masashi Kishimoto had several different designs for the character of Jiraiya. In one such design, Jiraiya would change into an ugly but powerful form during moments of passion, such as anger or when seeing a beautiful woman. This version of Jiraiya had a married toad couple riding on his shoulders, who would periodically tell jokes. Kishimoto abandoned the idea because it was too complicated, but integrated some aspects of it later on in the series when he enters a mode called Sage Mode. And we will get into that when we get into the in-universe.
So it's good to know that he kind of had the idea of this dude being a perv pretty much from the beginning.
Yeah, right? They're like, we're gonna make this guy, we're gonna make you question why somebody would get training from this dude.
It definitely works at it. So, Masashi would first conceive Jiraiya's name based on kabuki.
Kabuki being a actual type of stage performance in Japanese culture, and that kind of their plays with their masks and everything. That's kind of where that whole phrase comes from. Kishimoto commented that out of all the master-pupil relationships he's created in the Naruto series, the bond between Naruto and Jiraiya is his favorite. And honestly, as a fan of the show, it is probably one of my favorites as well.
That makes sense.
So let's get into the in-universe.
So, in the universe, after he graduated from Konoha's Ninja Academy, Jiraiya was teamed with Orochimaru and Tsunade. But they would be teamed under the leadership of Hiruzen Sarabuti? I know I'm screwing that up.
Saratobi.
There we go. Okay. And sad thing is that's still, I'm pretty sure, better than anything I can say in the next couple of them.
Well, let's get into it. So Jiraiya at some point discovered Mount Mayobuku, the residence of the Toads. In the anime, he was brought there when he tried to summon a toad without first having a contract with them. And actually, I remember the episode, he was actually attempting to summon several different animals with no contract. And the combination of it pulling from all the places pulled him in.
Okay.
Yeah, as he just puts his hand down as his master's like, no!
Nice.
Right? Fukusaki trained Jiraiya in their ways, most prominently Senjutsu. While he was at Mount Mayobuku, the great Toad Sage made a prediction about Jiraiya, that he would travel the world and during that time meet the Child of Prophecy, a student who would grow up to either save or destroy the world, depending upon how Jiraiya taught them. No pressure, right?
I was like, that seems like the worst way to word a prophecy. Because if that's going to put you under so much extra pressure, you're more than likely going to screw that up.
Yeah.
Because you are going to be so worried and nitpicking your own training that you're going to go too far one way.
That it's definitely one of those that I remember when that happened. I'm like, you couldn't have worded that any other way. Like, couldn't give us a hint.
Yeah, that just seemed like a horrible way to do that.
Yeah, no, and Senjutsu is kind of how he achieves Sage Mode. It's kind of a whole jutsu that are balanced around basically pulling the natural energy of the universe in, instead of using your own chakra, which is normally what the ninjas do.
Well, it makes sense, Senjutsu, very zen.
Yep.
It kind of fits and sounds similar enough that makes sense.
I mean, the ultimate way to achieve it is literally maintaining such perfect stillness that you could balance on a pinprick.
Yeah, I don't want to even think about doing that.
Yeah. No, it's a difficult one to do. That's why very few characters in the show actually have the ability.
Makes sense.
Okay.
So I want to attempt this. At some point, Jiraiya was made I'm guessing a Yonin?
Yes, I believe, or Jonin.
See, that's what I was going to go with, but that seemed too wrong for.
I mean, granted, that's how they pronounce it in the show, in the dubbed. Yes, I'm a dub watcher. I'm dyslexic. Back off, people.
So he would also lead a Genin team?
Genin.
Close enough. So he'd have a team of his own. He would start to suspect that one of them, Minato Namikaze, might be the Child of Prophecy because of his natural genius. As such, he would take him under as his disciple and teach him many of his own skills.
Yeah, I believe that was... I want to say that ended up being Naruto's father.
Okay.
Well, let's move on. Jiraiya was also known for being a book writer. Although his first book did not perform well, this led him into writing romantic comedies that became quite popular among readers. That's honestly why the main character calls him the pervy sage, is because he does write these smut novels, one of Naruto's actual teachers is a huge fan of.
That's great.
To a point where he even gifted the character the book. He's like, yeah, Jiraiya finished this book and it's not out yet, so I thought you'd like this. And he's like, oh my God, it's amazing.
That is awesome.
Right? Okay.
So all their team under Hiruzen's leadership had disbanded. Jiraiya,
Orochimaru,
and Tsunade continue fighting together during the Second Shinobi World War.
Oh yeah, no, the ninja world's always kind of been in conflict, so
Well, it makes sense. You got to have some kind of conflict to keep it all going,
right?
Otherwise, it'd be a very boring manga and show.
It really would be. So during one such fight in Amiga Kure, Jiraiya and Tsunade and Orochimaru were the only three to survive an encounter with Hanzo, who, for which accomplishment Hanzo dubbed them Konoha's legendary Sanin. shit. So yeah, no, he this character is actually pretty badass character to a point where like he literally has a poison sac in his body. So if you cause physical damage to him, you get poisoned.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a gas poison. He even has to wear a mask himself because it can hurt him. But
makes sense.
So for them to be the only survivors, it's kind of actually very impressive.
That is. After this battle, he would be approached by 3 war orphans. Feeling guilty for his involvement, he would stay and look after them, even teaching them when he realized one possessed the power of Rinnegan?
Yes, the Rinnegan.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that was an interesting encounter, especially because like it was him, Orochimaru, and Tsunade who encountered them. And really kind of not shockingly, Orochimaru's like, so like are we killing them? Like, am I killing these kids? And that's when Jiraiya had to kind of step in and be like, no. Like what? No.
Yeah, let's not go that way.
So yeah, no, he took them under his wing and started teaching them. So he believed this child, Nagato, was the chosen one prophesized, which, because the Rinnegan eyes are kind of an ancient lost technique that are considered like almost godlike powers in the ninjaverse. So for him to encounter this kid, it's kind of reasonable for him to think like this might be the one.
But it's also kind of funny knowing he's already done that with someone. He's just kind of picking the next one he thinks might be it.
It's kind of
what it feels like.
It's exactly how he's been doing it too.
It's like, oh, hey, he didn't really work out. You might be the one this time.
It really does kind of he starts doing a real shotgun approach to this prophecy.
Yeah, he is.
Which, I mean, considering how like niche the prophecy, how like
open-ended that prophecy was.
I mean, at that point, like, just train any kid who comes near you, I assume.
Pretty much.
And just hope they don't go Anakin on you.
Yeah.
So
Nagato decided that it was possible to end the constant bloodshed, and though he didn't know how, that it would someday find the path to peace. Jiraiya was inspired by his words and started writing what would become the tale of the utterly gutsy shinobi.
Which did not sell well. I mean, with a title like that, you know, like...
that's definitely a title that I probably wouldn't have opened.
Yeah, that would have been the title. Like, I was an edgelord in high school, and even I'm like, ugh, that is... Whew, not my alley.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no, it's... Honestly, if we never go back in the Narutoverse, I'll bring it up. This guy actually does end up becoming a villain. And that, just more throwing it out there because I feel like, you know, in case we never come back to it, yeah, this was one of Jiraiya's F-ups.
Nice.
So after 3 years of training the orphans, Jiraiya decided they were ready to forge out on their own. And he returned to Konoha. I hate that word Konoha because they never really use it in the show. It's called the Leaf Village. But I'm like, Okay. So he would return to Konoha. He left them all finished copies of the Gutsy Shinobi, dedicated to each of the children, and that specifically the one he was trying to train, believing he was the chosen one. News of the orphans' deeds would reach him from time to time, but eventually he would hear they all died.
As far as he knew, they all died.
As far as they know, but honestly, when you see them as adults, you're like, oof, death would have been probably would have been a mercy.
Probably why he ended up getting the news they died.
Yeah.
So, Minato selected as Konoha's fourth Hokage after Jiraiya refused the position. Enjoyed the book. Finding the main character very much like Jiraiya, he decided to name his and Kushina Uzumaki.
Yep, Uzumaki.
So he would name their unborn son Naruto after the main character, hoping that their Naruto would be just as determined as the character, and thus its author.
That, yeah, I remember that episode. Because, yeah, Jiraiya tried to actually convince them not to, since That would make him Naruto's godfather, but Minato and Kushina insisted this was a good thing. Which I get it, like he was the father's master.
Yeah, which would be why he's like, no, I don't want him to be something related to you.
Exactly. Like, it's one of those, like, you're basically a father to me, like, as far as, like, being my master. Like, why wouldn't I want you to be his godfather?
Right. I mean, Grant, at the same time, knowing name your kid based off a character in a book, knowing that is something that we still commonly do, I still feel like that's a bad idea.
Also, fun fact, Naruto was named after a book character. The book character was named after a noodle, and that's canon. Because that is an actual noodle, Naruto noodles. And yeah,
that is great.
He exists in the universe, and he couldn't come up with a name for the character, so he was eating noodles one day. He's like, Naruto. Yeah, let's go with this.
God, that's gotta suck when you get old enough to realize you're named after noodles, right? Essentially.
By proxy.
God, that'd be horrible. I'm gonna name my kid Fettuccine now.
Must be Italian. Minato would actually die during the Nine Tails Demon Fox attacking. Anybody who's seen the show, Nine Tails, Demon Fox, whole thing with that, but it escaped its prison, giving his life to seal the Nine Tails into the newborn Naruto. As one of his last acts, Minato sent Jiraiya, Garotora, on whose stomach he wrote the key to Naruto's seal. Jiraiya guessed that Minato wanted him to help Naruto gain control of the Nine Tails power, though he couldn't guess what that power would be needed for. Yeah, basically, I believe Garotora is actually one of the toads that he had wrote the seal in.
Okay.
And put it in his stomach. Because I remember that guy showing up, and he basically, in his stomach, had the, scroll with the stuff to unlock it.
So, my question for this Demon Fox, did it used to be a little small red Vulpix?
So funny enough, they actually do have a baby version of it in the show.
Is it small and red? Like Vulpix?
I mean, a dark orange. So kind of actually more closer to Vulpix.
That is horrible. And I was doing it just out of a really bad joke of Nine Tails.
Nope, they do have a baby version of him that looks almost like Nine.
Well, makes me wonder which one of them stole it from each other.
Okay, so arguably the Nine Tails legend. Well, actually, I think they both just stole it from the same source.
Probably,
because it is the Nine Tails legendary fox of Japanese culture.
So yeah, they probably jacked it from the same one.
Yeah, and they just, as they're leaving the library, they just both look at each other like, "We're just gonna, okay."
Yep.
So yeah, no. It's funny that you would ask that because I'm like, actually.
Oh, that is horrible.
Right?
All right. Although Orochimaru had always been his better, someone that Hiruzen pointed out to be an example for Jiraiya to live up to, Jiraiya considered Orochimaru to be one of his closest friends. For this reason, when Orochimaru eventually defeated the Konoha, Jiraiya pursued him and tried to convince him to return, or defected from the Konoha.
Which was a whole pretty, effed up arc to find out, because the whole reason he defected was they found out he was kidnapping kids in the village to run experiments on them to enhance his jutsu abilities.
Yeah, it's a little messed up.
So, yeah. So it's one of those, everybody's like, no, we gotta kill the guy. And Jiraiya's like, I mean, he used to be pretty cool guy. Almost like a Thor, that's my brother. He killed 50 children. He's adopted.
Yeah, it sounds exactly like this.
It's even funnier when you see what Orochimaru looks like and what Jiraiya looks like, because they almost literally look like stand-ins for Loki and Thor.
So I think I remember Jiraiya. I'm going to look up this other guy real quick.
So Orochimaru refused and attacked Jiraiya in order to secure his escape for a time. Jiraiya tried to find a deep meaning on Orochimaru's betrayal, something that if changed would bring Orochimaru back. He could ultimately come up with nothing. Which, when in the show, when you see Orochimaru, he has all the telltale traits of either a sociopath or a psychopath. So more one of those, like, reason and, like, emotion were not going to sway him. That's why he's experimenting on kids to enhance his abilities. He morally doesn't see anything wrong with it. He's like, why wouldn't we want to advance ourselves to the ultimate peak?
Because unfortunately, usually the means to get to the end are not a good means.
And not really a problem for a psychopath.
Exactly.
Which is honestly, I think, what made him an interesting villain.
Yeah, definitely. So from that point onward, Jiraiya started following Orochimaru's movements as well as those of Akatsuki?
The Akatsuki.
That's not how that is spelled. An organization which Orochimaru eventually joined, his investigations often took him away from the village, preventing Jiraiya from becoming the 5th Hokage like Hiruzen wanted him to.
Which, like, I feel, because he's been offered the position of Hokage so many times in the show.
I mean, at minimum, just in the story right now, minimum 2 times.
Yep. Because I remember after the last Hokage dies, that's how Tsunade becomes Hokage. Because Jiraiya ends up in town at the time, and they're like, we need you to become Hokage. And he's like, you know what? How about I find my partner?
I was like, how about no?
That's why he takes
instead.
He's like, you know what? I'm going to take the Nine Tails kid with me. We're going to go find out who's going to be the Hokage. Because I'm making a lot of money on these books, and I got a lot of spy things to do.
Right. Yeah, that definitely sounds a little more accurate.
He's also considered one of the best infiltrators, like, as far as, like, all the ninja.
Okay.
Which, you find out in the show, because of the summoning toads thing, allow him so many abilities, including being able to ride in the stomach of a little toad.
That is kind of interesting.
Right? It's freaky when you see it happen on the show. It's just this toad opens its mouth and an arm comes out and eventually a body.
Alrighty then.
Yeah, right?
Good to know.
Okay. God damn it, I forgot I have the mouse. Okay, so let's, honestly, we're going to end it here with Jiraiya, because trying to get any further into his story, we start going into a lot of other characters and archetype stories, like the Akatsuki. To go more into this, we literally would just be telling the Akatsuki story and not Jiraiya's. Mostly because in canon, there's not a lot as far as what he was actually doing while spying. And at this point, a lot of the other characters continue his story. This is kind of his whole arc.
All right.
So, amazing character, very interesting. The reason Naruto calls him Pervy Sage is because of the books, and he also caught him spying on a lady one time. And he's just like, what are you doing?
Yeah, that tracks.
He's like, I'm getting inspiration for my novels, which, it's like, that's a tired excuse for your illegal activities.
That's a really horrible excuse, even if it was new. That was not a good reason.
Right? So let's get into some powers and abilities. So powers, mostly ninjutsu is his primary power, which in the Naruto verse just allows for a lot of effery. Like, he's able to use his hair to turn into spikes or use it as a shield, and that he's able to use it to do the shadow clone thing even, which is not his primary method, but he's used it on occasion.
Makes sense.
Senjutsu, this is also the sage mode thing. It basically, by pulling the energy of the universe, it enhances his abilities almost tenfold.
Nice.
And that, which makes him a very devastating person when he goes into it. Just doesn't like to, because as we read earlier on, it actually does make him look like ugly. Like, it gives him warts and stuff.
I do remember seeing like pictures of that, and like, yeah, no, I wouldn't be wanting to do that either.
Yep.
Like, he looks like a giant frog.
Yeah, basically. It's why he kind of avoids it. He's like, the ladies don't like that look. So his whole thing is about trying to get women, so. And then we have his summoning jutsu, which he mostly uses to summon frogs and toads from that plane of existence, which that's his primary technique, is summoning them and kind of using them to help him fight.
Makes sense.
Which, there's some badass toads that you can bring out. There's sword-wielding ones. There's even one with a giant, basically, mace. And then he also uses them to help him infiltrate because he can hide in their stomachs.
And hey, what better way to do it?
Yeah. So this is a pretty awesome character, honestly, in my opinion. Joker, what do you think? You a fan?
And for what little I remember of it, yes. It is definitely, as we've gone through this episode, it has make me want to go through the giant tread of 200-something episodes of Naruto.
500.
No, only 200.
Oh, what?
For the actual original Naruto.
Oh, yeah.
I just looked it up, trying to make sure that all the seasons were on whatever platform. Yeah, no, the original series is only 220.
That's still a lot.
Yeah, hence why I haven't seen it since it originally came out. Because I've been dreading wanting to restart that.
Honestly, I did. I actually skipped the Naruto show. I went into just Naruto Shippuden to try to rewatch it, and oh my god, it's so long.
Yeah.
Good show, though. And honestly, I mostly started rewatching it because I wanted to get to Jiraiya's, arc.
Makes sense.
I mean, he's a badass character. He's the role model of Naruto, closest thing he has to a father, and honestly, that's probably my Achilles heel, though, is father characters.
Yeah.
So, I'm a fan. For anyone that's still listening, if you got something out of this, enjoyed the episode, or even liked the character before from a movie, a comic, cartoon, hell, even that t-shirt that you saw one time, you're a fan too. If you want to jump on this train, why not subscribe and share with a friend? d-rael out. Y'all keep riding them rails.